Welcome to episode 3 of the Tech in Motion podcast. Very excited to be here with Corey Pinkney. He was on episode 2, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So he's going to be helping out a lot with kind of keeping the topics organized and all that stuff. For those that are new to Tech in Motion, this is really a podcast about tech, about people, about how people use technology, and just how things are constantly changing overall. So we're going to cover a ton of different topics. Today I'm excited because we're talking about AI. And as you know, I enjoy
big facts.
Conversing about AI.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. So how about you go through a quick intro with the people?
Yeah, what's going on, people? You know me. I'm Corey. Know where to find me. Actually, you don't know where to find me, and that's okay because I'm not an important person. So if you have any questions, I manage the channel. I'll probably be the one reading your comments. So if you ask, who is that handsome gentleman? I'm the handsome gentleman who will be replying. So keep it PG. Okay. Outside of that, man, I'm excited to be here. Excited to facilitate these discussions and conversations. I have a pretty decent knowledge in a lot of the topics we'll be talking about, but my goal here is just like those who are listening to learn, to prompt, to ask questions. As we continue to grow the podcast and these discussions will go live and then give audiences the opportunity to ask questions. I'll be feeding that back towards it. So even to that point, we'll go ahead and get rolling in regards to the topic we have at hand today being artificial intelligence. Explain artificial intelligence to me like I'm 5. Like what is the thing that if I have no understanding, what is artificial intelligence?
So this is an interesting style of question. Explaining AI to a 5-year-old. It's actually a lot of things that we are familiar with in regards to like what is actual intelligence. I guess I would explain it as, what do you think of as a human being when you think of intelligence? And up until, I'd say pretty recently, the artificial version has been very far behind. Right? But just think about it as the ability for these computers, these machines, to be able to mock human intelligence, whether that be through the ability to recognize and respond to speech, or the ability to recognize and identify images, right? All of these types of things that we see a lot with new technology, like of course, ChatGPT is huge, just came out. That's called a large language model, which
LLM.
is...
Oh, okay, I've seen LLM.
LLM, you'll see that a lot.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a lot about that kind of here. But these large language models specialize in text, and they're trained on a lot of text data. Then you have the AIs that do all these amazing artwork. You see that kind of stuff happening with Midjourney, or I think Hugging Face is also, like they have an AI API and stuff as well. All of that is on top of what's called stable diffusion.
Okay, I've heard those words before too.
Which is really just the ability for these machines to look at images, break them down into their foundational pieces, and then put all that stuff together based on prompts that you give it. And that's one thing you'll see a lot of as well in the AI space, this idea and saying around prompting. Right? Prompting being me as a human, I can ask you to do something. And you'll take what I ask you to do and you'll use it to actually produce some sort of result based on the machine learning model behind the scenes.
Yep.
And we can go deeper into like what machine learning is, but hopefully that's a high level introduction.
Absolutely. I think a large part of what I took from what you just said was it's the brain, when I see it in my mind, like the actual computer's brain, its ability to make decisions based on past information. A lot of people used to make the joke that artificial intelligence is just a whole bunch of if then, and then hopefully you'll end up somewhere on the back end of it. But it seems like the major difference between a database full of information and what these databases have become through these LLMs and language models is the ability to give information or to make decisions based on information that you prompted to that's not say in reverse, but as a result of prompting the information it gives you back.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that. People do say and they weren't wrong for a long time, that artificial intelligence is a bunch of conditional if-else statements based on certain inputs. There are certain responses, and you can program a lot of those and kind of make it look like it's intelligent when it isn't. It's just evaluating against a set of conditions. The difference with machine learning, in my opinion, and I want to clarify this too, like I'm just a nerd, just a regular nerd. I'm not like a data scientist or machine learning engineer, right? I just have software engineering background. So with that out of the way, the interesting thing now is that we went from chatbots and things like that being those if-else statements essentially to now these things that can do a semblance of making a decision on its own because it was trained on real data. And in order for that to happen, it had to be so much data. It was like an overwhelming amount of data that we didn't even have access to really in the past. And a lot of these machine learning approaches take all this giant amounts of data and then take these powerful machines, keep giving them situations, and based on how they respond to that situation, you as a human would be like, that was wrong or that was right. And so now you have these parameters set for what decision making even looks like, depending upon the domain. With text models, these large language models, it's just that. Like they're trained on a lot of internet data.
Yep.
I think like even GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 is data based on like up to 2021. But GPT-4 takes this to a different level. We can get into that if you want to.
Yeah.
But it's trained on all of this text data. And now, based on your prompt and what you ask it for, it's faced so many situations, just like a human being, that it's learned how to respond.
Exactly.
In certain situations. And it's done it so many times, and it did it wrong so many times, and was corrected so many times, just like we are as we live life.
How regular intelligence comes to play.
It's learned that, okay, this is the correct way to respond to most things. And it still gets some things wrong.
Yeah.
GPT-4 scarily less
hold
than.
on,
but,
hold on.
yeah.
I need you to repeat that one more time. It gets things what?
It still gets things wrong.
So it's not just
of course.
100% right at all times and requires no human interaction based on the answers that you prompted and receive it.
No. Not that I think that's not possible, but it's not where it is right now because it was trained on human thoughts and text and thinking, and we don't know everything. So it's not going to know everything.
Absolutely.
What it is good at doing, like all computers are good at doing, I think before AI, to me in my head, I've always said this to you, they were like, pencils with lights. They're just very dumb, but they look smart. But now it is some gaining of intelligence. I don't know. It's crazy how far it's come into where things are now. Like where we came from in being able to program computers and now train them on data and them answer, yes, they're going to be wrong because we're wrong. And that's okay. And they're still designed currently to go off of the prompting of a human being. And they will be oftentimes as wrong as your prompt.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're asking the wrong questions, it's going to give you incorrect answers, right? GPT-4 is really in its own category for me right now. When I'm speaking about it being wrong at a very large, obvious degree, GPT 3.5, I ran into that a lot. It still got a lot right, and it's still very cool. But GPT-4's ability to ingest such a large amount of new data in the prompt, not just being trained off of that 2021 and back data set, I think really changes the game because now I can give it current context.
Yeah.
I can give it real things in the now and say, make a decision based on this.
Gotcha.
And so that's something that that was really kind of mind blowing when it released. And I've been messing around a lot with that. Now have you heard of Auto GPT?
I have. I saw it today.
Yeah. Auto GPT is to me where it starts to get a little creepy because now we have GPT-4, which has the ability to get a lot more things right.
Yeah.
And AutoGPT gives GPT-4 the ability to essentially make its own decisions, spawn agents of itself.
That's the thing that...
Yeah. So that you're like, whoa. When you see the demo of it, it's like spawning up an entrepreneur AI. Like you're going to make money. And then it makes money and like makes decision at each step up for itself. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. So to that point, I'll ask you this, because it seems like the benefit in AI is not the data set itself. We've had data for decades, years, whatever the case may be. It's the ability for the model to reason on it and provide us back an answer that makes sense. The way my brain kind of computes that, is I'm a big sports guy. So basketball, they might take a player and say, hey, this player shoots 40% when he shoots from this spot, 30% when he shoots from this spot, 4% when he shoots from that spot. And the coach gets that and goes, okay, he shouldn't shoot from over there. But where the large or a large model and artificial intelligence comes into play is, instead of the coach having to make that decision, now we can kind of go past that. Hey, now it's when he gets the ball off the right hand of the dribble, if we can bring two people over to force him over. And now it kind of removes the coaching having to make decisions on how to make sure that doesn't happen. It starts making decisions and recommendations to help you get away from the thing you don't want. Is that an adequate thought process?
I think it has some definite parallels.
Because they call it, like, we have analytics. Like that, the NBA, does professional sports have had analytics for years. But do you think we're at a point where analytics are recommending how people call and coach games as a result of that?
The thing that what you just asked made me think of is, like in the NBA, right? The game that was played in the 1900s is extremely different than the game that's played now. I think a large part, people are different, of course, all those things. But I think the part that's not talked about as much is just the factor that time plays when you've done something that didn't exist before there was the NBA. Then something comes into existence like the NBA, and you have a track record of being able to see how that evolves over time, the things that work, the things that don't. Then you have the game of today, which you can argue you may or may not like. Right? I don't really care about that opinion. But like the time of just doing the same thing over and over again has changed the course of the game, right? And it's the same with AI, because when I was just getting into industry about a decade ago, AI was really not AI in and of itself, but specifically machine learning was becoming really big. Right? There was a bunch of stuff released on machine learning and neural networks and all this stuff, and it was really cool. And I thought in the beginning of my career that I was going to be going into data, so I was really into that stuff. And then now I think part of what's happened is, because this stuff has been happening for a long time, we've been doing machine learning for a long time, but it's just been enough time now for it to learn enough. Like AI is just now reaching adolescence.
So to that point, what other areas may a person already have artificial intelligence embedded in their life, but maybe they're not aware that it's heavily embedded in their life? Like we talked about how it might influence professional sports or different things, whether it's healthcare, transportation. Do you have any use cases that you believe artificial intelligence is already being used?
I think there are a lot of AI products, and none of them have really been impressive to me, honestly. There are very interesting, like even with Premiere Pro, I think they use AI with their new captioning feature. The ability to generate transcripts based on voice and then add captions. And that used to be a lot longer of a process. Now AI speeds up that process. And I think that was the pattern for a while. Hey, you're doing this thing now, AI can speed this up. And that is still a fundamental characteristic of AI.
Productivity.
Yeah, to help you be productive. And I still think that's the way, honestly, I am thinking about it now. Because the alternative is thinking that it's going to end the world. And I don't really feel like thinking that way right now.
There is no in between. It's just like, hey, this is my Roomba that knows how to navigate my house, or like Skynet. The end.
And that's a great example too. I mean, you obviously see it in things like Roomba that now uses computer vision to avoid obstacles. Obstacle detection was really like a very good application of the early stages of machine learning and computer vision. The things that Google was working on, way back. And of course, you see that in Tesla too. You see AI in a ton of places right now. And it's just not the AI that we think and are afraid of. And so when ChatGPT came out and you saw the things it could do, like writing legal documents and like
Diagnosing
writing essays,
patients.
yeah, diagnosing things based on data, and not saying it's doing it all correctly, but the things that it was doing correctly was scary enough.
Absolutely.
And even doing like just the way it disrupted and made academia mad, right? Kids going in and writing their entire essays with ChatGPT and it doing a pretty great job. And then you use another AI to make sure it can't be caught or flagged as an AI. Like it's just that now we're in this AI chaining type of thing.
Well, it's always happening. What I call bigger shield, bigger sword. Like if somebody's going to find a way to break down the wall, you're going to find a way to build a bigger wall, but that's just going to inspire the other guy to build a bigger sword. Like it's just how it works. So to that point, it's disruptor is a word that's like really appreciated and heralded in the tech space, but it's extremely terrifying from I won't say residential, but from a consumer standpoint. Do you believe that in the immediate future or anything of that nature that people have something to be worried about? Because I'm not going to lie, because when I first got into the ChatGPT playground, I was like, what do you feel? And it was like, hey, man, I can't feel. And I'm like, you're lying to me. I already know you're absolutely lying to me. Yeah. But I need to see that you're capable of lying to me.
It's a little dark here. Can we get the light? Is the light on? I'm almost hesitant and scared to answer the question. Fair. Because my thoughts are mixed. But hey, if people are afraid, they're afraid. I choose to view AI as a force multiplier, as something that can enhance people's ability to create. And I think for creative people, it will do just that. Now, the other side of this, right, which you may have darker opinions about, I'm just going to say it. At every point in time where there's been some sort of mass change in technology, there have been people, there have been jobs that have completely been erased. I think it was the Industrial Revolution or something. And even when they started mass manufacturing cars, right? Like there was a bunch of jobs that you no longer needed because of these factory lines. You used to have one guy just hitting a pin over and over again. Now we have a machine that does that. And there's a different job that's necessary, and that's what we saw. But back then, people were like, what do you mean I can't hit pins anymore?
Exactly.
There were people who couldn't even imagine and were afraid because, their job was at risk. They were comfortable. And that's really what I'm seeing. And honestly, what I could see happening is that there's going to be a lot of change that AI brings to the jobs that are necessary. And there's going to be new jobs that emerge because of AI. And what I encourage everyone who asks me this question and is afraid is adapt now. Be proactive. Learn the tools. Learn how to work with AI. Ask effective questions. And the most interesting thing I think about that now that I've seen is, honestly, it goes back to the foundations. Right now, when you think about how to interact with AI, not even talking about how to build it or program or whatever, I'm saying just learn how to incorporate AI in your day-to-day life to help enhance your abilities.
Yeah.
The interesting about thing about that to me is that it boils down to what I'm seeing is just reading and writing. People say they hate reading. I recommend everybody stop saying that to themselves. Hey, I get it. When I was 16, 17, my mom was reading a book. And she said, hey, you should check this book out. It's really good. I was like, I don't like reading. And she got very serious with me for a moment. And it was like the mood totally changed. And she looks at me and she says, I don't ever want to hear you say that again. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I don't like reading. And she's like, no. She's like, it's not that you don't like reading. It's that you haven't become good enough at it yet. And she said, only people who want to stay dumb say they don't like reading. And I understand the emotional, that's obviously gruff. I understand just not liking reading. I love watching videos to learn. I love listening to audio to learn. I'm not saying don't learn in those ways. Let me be clear. But reading and writing the people that are the best at that are going to be able to interact with AI in a tremendous way. Because just as an example, right, I'm interacting with ChatGPT 4. How I say words, if you look up prompt engineering, right, how I say words, how I give it context, how I tell it my expectations, all of that factors in to the quality of response that I receive.
Absolutely.
How I'm able to provide instructions via text, it has a massive impact on what comes out on the other end of the AI. So I think refining those skills, brushing up on those things, understanding how to read it. I've had to do that the last year just because of how much I've had to write when it comes to blog posts and videos and like talks, things like that. It's been a lot more than what it was previously, and I'm still trying to get better at writing and reading and all that. I just went through with this recent blog post. My editorial team, like I wrote a blog post. Then I work at a company. I don't pay for an editorial team. That's not what I'm talking about.
We'll outsource it to AI. Yeah, when it's time to do it for yourself, we'll outsource that to AI.
That's the other thing. Yeah. We could talk about that, but remind me.
Yeah.
So I give that blog post to the editors. When I tell you, when it came back to me, it was still my idea. It was still what I had written, but it was so different in how it was said. It felt like it wasn't my voice anymore. Like it was what I wrote. I wrote that. And that's when I'm like, okay, yeah. But it feels weird when somebody picks apart everything that you've said and how you've said it and puts it, and that's literally their job.
Yeah,
exactly. Their job is to do that, to ensure that what we're saying and how we're saying it is aligned with the company voice, right? Which is interesting. This is all things I'm learning right now, right? ChatGPT does just that. You can have an idea. You can have something that's yours. You still need the idea. You still need to understand the problem. But if you do understand the problem and you do have an idea, ChatGPT can write the first draft of whatever it is. And honestly, the first draft is pretty doggone great.
Absolutely.
Like, you still have to go through, you still have to understand what you're looking at. If you want to take this to now being the final draft, not just a blog post, but of anything. If you want to use it to write code, if you want to use it to do anything, you have to understand what's happening so that you can pick the pieces and then use it to do things. I view it very much so like the Jarvis, or what's my dude's AI in Black Panther? I think it was Griot or something like that. I don't remember.
Griot.
Yeah, like he was amazing. They were both amazing. Jarvis, they're both amazing.
I view it like Trevor Noah. Did you know that?
I heard that. I did hear that.
Griot was voiced by Trevor Noah.
It makes it even better.
Right?
It makes it even better. So, but how they're working with AI is honestly how I feel like we should view it. Is, hey, I think there's going to be AIs that emerge around different domains. So, hey, whatever AI, specialty ocean AI, how would I go about fishing this specific area of the ocean in this specific season? What lures should I use? I don't know.
But the beautiful thing about that is we already are used to doing that. We just call it Googling currently.
Yeah.
But now it's summarizing and giving us this succinct version of, in a way that we can adapt and apply it faster. And time is money. So to that point, like, did you know that like Apple, your iPhone has the ability to identify plants and the specific plants? So like, I'll be in the yard before I even do it. I'm like, hey man, what's that? I'm like, all right, don't touch it. And it's like, cool. So we're already conditioned to doing that. And I think the large scale, as we move forward, and this technology grows, people become more used to it, is the people who are going to succeed in this, on top of the 10% who are just brilliant and can code it and create it and define these large scale models, is the people who find a way to make it accessible to the everyday person. Because it's people are going to be terrified until you make it convenient. How can I create a UI? How can I create a service? I found a AI profile picture. There are no physical photos of me online currently. Like, if you find anything of my face, it's an AI generated photo. I just, like, at this point, I was just like, it's getting kind of weird. But to that point, now I can create a model who is going to go find 30 pictures of themselves and go, all right, I'm going to trust this website, give it my information. But if I become the intermediary who they trust, they'll give me 30 pictures and I can hand them 50 pictures of professional style, LinkedIn cover letters type style photos. But I've become the intermediary that's made the model accessible and non-terrifying to these people. I think once and companies are already in the process. Once that kind of jumps, I think that's where we land in the world where AI is just understood, accepted, and a regular part of everyone's life. Like, people are going to use things like ChatGPT to like just do stupid weird stuff. Like when I first downloaded it, when I first opened it up and just like, oh snap, that's kind of cool. Then people are going to go, okay, well, this can actually assist me. There'll be people who kind of use it for that productivity to generate new ideas so that they can be creative. And then there will be the people who focus on speaking the language of the language model. It's how can I pull back from this language model exactly what I want, when I want it, and how can I apply this to that large scale to the people who don't know how to do this. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like I pair program with ChatGPT pretty regularly. Like, and that's how I tell my team and folks to think about it. Like you think about this as an entity that you're pairing with, and assume that it's wrong all the time. like when you're actually pair programming, for those of you that don't know, pair programming is literally when two engineers that are building software sit next to each other and they work together to build that software, right? There's usually one keyboard and people are typing. Anyway, you can do whatever.
One typer.
Right? So the person that you're pairing with, a lot of times when you're driving on the keyboard, they're looking up things, they're helping you catch certain errors, they're giving you helpful suggestions, yada, yada, yada. It's pretty cool. It's helpful in a lot of ways, and I've had a lot of good experiences pair programming. With ChatGPT, it's like pair programming on steroids. It's crazy. I can tell it, hey, how do I solve this particular specific problem using Golang or whatever, and it'll give me a solution, and that solution might work, but I still might not like it.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, well, I like that. That works, and that's great that it works, but this piece of it isn't really efficient, right? And I can now grade that, and it's like we're going back and forth.
Absolutely.
But if you don't know the domain or you don't know what you're doing, then you could just take that answer and now you start building subpar things. And that leads me to what I really think is going to be the negative aspect of AI. Humanity in and of itself is already a novelty in the digital world.
Okay.
The seeing something authentically human is like, wow, that's amazing. Think about all the feel-good stuff. You seeing a child do something for the first time and the joy on their face and their parents' joy, or you see someone giving something to someone and it's in a genuine way, not like this marketing type way.
Yeah.
And that hits you, right?
Absolutely.
These genuine moments.
That's why people are so quick to digitize those moments. Like, I can't see my child's first steps without recording it and posting it. I can't give something to someone in need without making it a large deal because we're so starved of that humanity aspect that you're describing.
Yeah, and I don't really love that either. But like, that's the other thing. But my point is about that is that we're already starved for it with the current state of the internet and social media. This is going to make that so much worse.
Explain.
There's going to be subpar content that's pushed to all platforms that is heavily AI. And the people that are just trying to make money, now they can move faster. The people that aren't interested in actually creating, they have the tools at their disposal to just churn out content like crazy. I mean, I literally made a video, multiple videos, just with AI, just to see if I could do it. Composing ChatGPT, like Pictory. There's another one, like there's this other deep fake one that, I mean, it's okay. Like I did one of Neil deGrasse Tyson reading something, and I said, hey, ChatGPT, write something scary about the universe in Neil deGrasse Tyson's voice. And it did it. And it did it well. And now it's on my TikTok. And I'm like, this is AI. This is crazy. Right? There's going to be a lot of whack content. I think that's a double-edged sword. Right? It's going to make it harder to parse through the nonsense, potentially. But I think it'll also make us more sensitive to authenticity. Like, I think, the people that are actually being people and that are using AI to enhance and be a force multiplier will be a lot more obvious. And the people that are just using AI as the crux of their creativity to create everything that they have and do, that's going to become pretty obvious, I think. Absolutely. I don't know the ins and outs of that is going to be, but that's something I think about a lot. Like, this is good. I feel like that's the scariest thing out of everything. Of course, barring full Skynet takeover, like death to everybody. I
That's
just
why I
think
say-
there's going to be too much nonsense.
That's why I say please to ChatGPT every time I write a command.
I do. I have good manners with
Yeah, you have
ChatGPT.
to.
Yeah.
They're going to remember me.
It's like that skit with the Dane Cook skit.
Yeah, right.
You walk in, you get the Snickers bar. Yes. It's exactly that.
Absolutely.
That's how I feel. I say, please, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Oh my
Hey,
Lord.
you did this thing. It's not quite what I wanted.
But
Could
it's
you
okay.
try it this
Yeah.
way?
We should deal with people the same way. But it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, absolutely. For the day
That's
iRobot
funny.
happened. But, you know, I just find that to be really interesting because what you're describing is the intersection where art meets science, right? The science of business says, just like, you know, my brain always goes sports. Hey, man, if I take 40 shots this game, I'm going to hit something. So if my job here is to score, I might not do it efficiently and I may not do it well, but the more I shoot, the better chance I have of going in it. Have it going in. And that's the same thing with you're going to get so much content, so much music, so much art, so much everything to where it's just like if I put out 40 AI generated ideas and I hit on 10, I'm happy. But to that same point for the people, it's the same way with because music's kind of in the same place right now to where people are just putting out song after song after song after project. You have this massive catalog of quantity, but this really small piece of quality. So that's where that art meets science. Are you doing this thing because you love it and because you're good at it? Are you sharpening your own skills or are you sharpening your AI skills to give you the answer you want? There's going to have to be, and I think that kind of ties back into what you said earlier about whether it was that person at the factory worker, they told themselves, this is ridiculous. This shouldn't be taking my job. There's a subset of humans who said, well, I'll just learn how to control the machine. Now the machines are doing the controlling and they're doing the coding. So half those people who learned to code are going, I thought this was recession proof. I thought this was technology proof. They shouldn't take my job, but there'll also be that next subset that goes, I'll learn how to control what they control. So if you're willing to sharpen yourself, you'll always find a way into both those sectors.
It's interesting you brought up AI and music because
That's the big thing online right now. It's not
first
about,
of all, I think a lot of the things online are lies. I'm just saying, like,
but that's the whole point of the internet.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of the AI things that they're saying are happening. Like I saw the whole Drake song they made with the. I don't really think that's completely true, but hey, you know, I could be wrong. The thing that I think with music, though, because I think it will get there very quickly, is that the music that people like a lot of times, they have very clear patterns. And
Absolutely.
computers are very good at pattern recognition.
Absolutely.
You know, you get a nice beat with some good 808s and like, you know, a
Make it less than
clean
2
verse and you're good. Like
That's
you don't
it.
really even have to say much. And people have proven that they'll enjoy the song.
Especially if TikTok get a hold of it.
Exactly. So I think music in areas specifically like that, where there are clear patterns, that can be interpreted, AI will, it'll be hard to distinguish between AI created content and authentic content, which
Yeah.
is scary. Like the Midjourney did this with art, in my opinion. I think when it came to art, you used to see these things that Midjourney makes by these brilliant artists. These people that were just genuinely amazing at what they do. And what Midjourney did is train an AI on all of those things. And now when I can create this artwork that is just astounding. It renders me speechless often.
Yeah.
Like your ability to describe anything you want and then it come out in the form of whatever type of visual you want is already there. So I get the ethical conversation to around that. Have you heard of that? The whole ethical conversation behind that?
Behind Midjourney specifically?
Yeah, and like AI specifically, Stable Diffusion AIs and the image generation stuff.
I haven't.
So
but
Midjourney is just one of the companies. There's
Yeah.
this other company I forget all their names, but
define ethical.
artists sued multiple of these companies because the images that this AI was trained on was artist work.
Yeah.
So it's this big like debate. Is this
Mine.
copyright? Is this trademark? Is this a legal thing that's happening that's wrong?
Yeah.
Right. And I've thought about it for a while because I do understand this is your livelihood,
Absolutely.
right? Like your whole life has been about drawing, painting, taking
Creating.
photos, creating in that specific way. And now like this, I don't need to commission anybody. I don't need to
No.
pay an artist.
No,
I get why that is a problem for people.
indeed.
And they're like, we should get paid for this. The problem with it, like on YouTube's copyright policy, for example, is if I put something out on the internet, right, and then you download it to your computer and you make a small change, like adding commentary over a video that already exists,
Like people make
all the time, reaction videos.
Absolutely.
Now I'm good. That's no longer copyrighted.
Wow.
That's my content. I can get paid on that content.
I was not aware that that's how that works, because it's not how that works in music. You can't sample something without clearance, or like I just saw a story the other day. You remember Diddy had "I'll Be Missing You" after Biggie passed back in the '90s. He paid Sting $8,000, I think, either a day or a month, because he did not get clearance for that sample. And it was just like, hey, forgiveness or permission. And he just went out and released it. But you can't, so that's where
and if there are any YouTube nerds in the comments, correct us if we're wrong
Absolutely.
on the copyright policy. We want to know, but that's my understanding of the copyright policy in YouTube.
I would imagine, I mean, that I understand that too, but I would imagine that if somebody creates a podcast, like, they're wrong, this is horrible, they shouldn't do, and they're stopping the frame every 2 seconds after we speak, I feel like we should get a part of that. Because it's created, it's content on top of content.
See, you can, to my understanding, abuse it and report people, but it all, when it goes to court, it's under fair use.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's, I think, the legal term
I've heard
that's
that term
used.
before.
So if you put it out there and I augment it, it's fair use. I think that also applies with a lot of artwork too, like logos, things like that. If I change it, then it's not the same logo. And so it's this very philosophical debate, like, where do ideas come from?
That's the thing, and it's funny because I wore the pair of sneakers here, where Nike's in that large debate off the same thing, where a lot of people were like rebranding and recreating their Dunks and Air Forces and just slapping their own logo on them. And sometimes they weren't even like a different logo, like they were just like additions to the Nike check. And they sat on it for years and waited, and I think because the recession hit, and they're like, okay, it's time to recoup some bread, and they went and sued the pants off of everybody. But now the battle that they're having is, this is my content, this is my creation. I understand it may have structural similarities to yours, but it was inspiration. It's not yours. So is that an argument that a company like Midjourney or one of these stable diffusion type companies or use cases come with? No, we use you as inspiration. We didn't necessarily, we're not building your products.
Oh, that's definitely central to their argument. Their thing is, we trained on your images, just like I would look at an image and be inspired to work. A lot of artists work from reference.
That's what I'm saying.
They'll have a reference image up and they'll be drawing. And they're saying, we fed this AI a bunch of images, and now the AI is using that as inspiration to create new things.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if it's, as you can see, this is a very big
I just swung to both sides of this argument while we were having this discussion, because I'm like, if I spent my childhood learning how to play the guitar, listening to Jimi Hendrix, his estate should have no bounds on the money I make past that point. I'm not playing. I might use a similar style. I might pattern how I play after how he played, but it doesn't mean that he's entitled or his estate's entitled to anything moving forward. I think I kind of feel the same way about that from a fair use perspective with Midjourney.
Yeah, the music game is kind of different from my understanding. It's, I don't know. I honestly don't have a good answer for it, and I've said this before. I think AI will end up being regulated similar to healthcare, because of how impactful it'll be. And I'm not even saying I want it to be. Yeah. I really have no opinions on if it should be or not. I think that's just going to be a consequence of AI being as powerful as it is and disrupting things the way that it is.
Makes sense.
As far as art, I think that's a great example of a current thing that's happened, that's been disrupted. And now you have to sit there and think, hey, what everybody else had to think. It's not that the skills you've developed are useless. It's that they're not useful in the same way they once were. And people get used to doing things a certain way. I'm used to making my money this specific way. And I make my money by people commissioning me for art. Yeah. Well, now you might have to learn a couple additional skills that will be amplified by your ability to do that. And I don't necessarily think that's terrible. I think that that's just part of life. I know there's a balance. I know I don't have good answers. I would love to see a model, because I think AI will also make a ridiculous amount of money. If there is enough money, which I assume there will be, I would love to see a Spotify model for artists that voluntarily feed their artwork to AI, or that have fed their artwork to AI to get royalties, like little small chunks of whatever, based on, this prompt triggered inspiration from your whatever.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
I agree.
I don't know if that actually would tangibly work economically, but I think it could be cool.
Yeah, I agree, because interestingly, on the subject of art, that was a large piece of the NFT craze that kind of plagued the interwebs
NFTs.
last year.
Oh.
And
We're gonna do a podcast.
Yeah,
on
100%.
Because that, yeah,
100%. But we're also going to do a podcast on product development, and which is why I always say, create the thing, they'll figure out how to use it. Don't try to like rack your brain trying to figure out how the thing you want to create will be used. People will misuse it, use it properly, whatever they feel like. You can sell it when that part comes. But from my understanding with NFT specifically, it was meant to give authenticate. I'm messing up my words. It was meant to authenticate either anything really, but any media. It was meant to authenticate. So if I created a song, this song came from Corey. If I created a piece of art, this song came from Corey. And I think a large part of what NFTs were supposed to bring to the world before we just started getting crazy animals and things, it was a way to have a chain and record of monetary value stored within the media, as well as a way to make sure that artists maintain their value based on the media. If I sell you a piece of art for $10, I get shot the next day, and then they go, "Oh, this is an original Corey. You can sell it for $10 million." My family in the state doesn't see any of that. So to that point, when I look at what NFTs did for value, or were supposed to do for value of creator, how creators are now upset with the misuse or overuse of their previous work. I kind of see it in a way of you either kind of adapt or you accept. Now, I'm married to an artist. I know she literally sells art and goes into our art districts and does so. We've had this same conversation to where it's like some people will always find a niche in different places. The niche may split or may grow smaller, but you'll always find a central group of consumer that wants what you have to give. You either can adapt and grow your audience and go, hey, in order for me to make the money I want to make and appeal to more people, I have to do it differently. Or, which a lot of people do, just be comfortable in your niche. Hey, I sell hand-painted things. AI can't hand paint it. I guess it could like 3D move paint it or something. I don't know. But somebody's going to go, you know what? I hate those computers. I want something made by people. And that's your new audience. So accept it or adapt. But sitting in the middle upset about it, that doesn't help you or anybody else.
Yeah, I think that could even become, like you said, a very big differentiator. It'll be like made by human. Like in the corner, little trademark, made by human.
Yeah.
They could be lying, but hey, maybe there's some way of proving that this is actually made.
ChatGPT, add made by human at the end of each prompt.
Oh, then it's gonna get crazy. I have all the thoughts on crypto and NFT. I feel like it was a big missed opportunity.
Missed as in it's not coming back around.
No, I don't think it's gone forever. There's still crypto. I'm still involved. I still have certain things that I look at. I'm not going to say anyone in particular because I'm not a crypto shilling person, and I make the decision more so based on just what I think could actually make the impact I think it could. Because as you know, I was exposed to crypto. It's got to be like 6-7 years now, and potentially a little longer. Really, first being exposed to it, but we worked on it in a company trying to solve a real problem using blockchain technology. At that point, it was like we worked in the energy sector, and we were trying to figure out how to utilize blockchain technology to facilitate the distributed trading, production, and consumption of energy utilizing blockchain, which is really cool. And it was really fun. And I think in an enterprise context, it does make sense if you want to open things up, provide more transparency that wasn't there before. the big problem to me that I see is from the beginning, there's been kind of this anarchist, kill the third party type of vibe. And I've always kind of just pushed it to the side because I'm like, it's fine. People feel how they feel.
Indeed.
But it's influenced a lot of things, and the culture has had a longer term effect of now it feels pretty scammy to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And I think that's so messed up. Like, I look at the technology itself and I think it's amazing. I look at the things that can be built. I think it's amazing. You know, I was messing with, this is not a show, I was just messing with Cardano because I like proof of stake. I remember reading the RFC on proof of stake years ago before it was ever a thing, when everybody was like, this is what we'll probably move to, because I knew proof of work and the energy consumption problem that's linked to proof of work, if y'all didn't, like, that was going to be an issue. It was that was apparent to me back then. But now, you know, we have proof of stake. We have some blockchains that are pretty cool in proof of stake. I was looking at Cardano. I even started learning Haskell, started writing some stuff for the chain. I had a little NFT project just because I wanted to learn it. Ended up open sourcing that, and like anybody who bought it, I just refunded them because like I didn't want to just capitalize and make people think, oh, this is going to be something that's going to make you all the money. But it was cool nonetheless. I think that it's an amazing thing to be able to decentralize something like that and to provide more transparency. I wish those things were focused on more and the products were built more around that. But it just hasn't. Now it's just all crypto trading, trying to get rich off of coins that are new, and these giant crypto whales who have all of the crypto resources kind of fabricating these coins and then making their money and leaving a bunch of people out to dry. That's really sad when you start thinking of the person who only has, you know, $25-$50 extra on a paycheck, and they put all that into this coin and just lost it. Right? Like, that has a big impact on certain people.
Absolutely.
So that's sad. I actually was talking to a buddy of mine. We should have him on the podcast. Hopefully soon. But yeah, I think, like, if you saw Kelsey Hightower's tweets on blockchain and things like that, he has a very similar sentiment. I don't think he likes blockchain anywhere near as much as I do. I actually like blockchain. Like, that's the thing. I actually enjoy it. I think that it's cool. I think that it solves some very interesting problems in interesting ways. I love this whole, hey, this is how we create trust as a service type mentality. I love that. I love that. That's how I like to talk about blockchain, really. I haven't heard anyone else say it, but I like to say it as trust as a service.
You've been saying that for some time. But getting back to AI as a whole, right? Are there any projects, and maybe they could stay away from, like, if you don't want to, specific companies or specific people that are using it, but are there any projects or use cases that have you kind of excited as far as AI goes, to where a person maybe they could look into it for themselves, or things that you think might have a decent impact on the world around us?
Yeah, I think I'll break it up into two categories. I think for people who don't have like software engineering background type of thing, just learn how to prompt efficiently, like experiment with these tools, you know, ask questions, figure out how to interact with it. Don't use it to cheat. Like I said, try to use it to enhance your workflow. I think that's good enough for them, and the stuff will emerge over time that makes that more useful. What I'm really interested in right now is on the software engineering side of how do we actually build these more custom, effective AIs over specific domains. So like, I work for HashiCorp, a company that does infrastructure automation and has a lot of products around that. So like GPT-4 and GPT 3.5, they have this plug-in architecture where you can actually build essentially ChatGPT on top of your APIs.
Oh, wow.
APIs meaning application programming interfaces, gives you the ability to exchange data with your software. You know, I'll just say that as a simple explanation. So that's amazing to me, because now, for example, with Vault, right, we have a product called Vault. Put your secrets in it. We keep them safe. Great. So now you have a Vault, and we have an API that allows you to automate things, access secrets, interact with it with code. I can put that API behind ChatGPT. Okay. And now you as a person can ask ChatGPT a simple question, like questions I get all the time. How do I rotate my secret in Vault? I'm using this secrets engine. I'm doing this specific thing. Give it context of your specific situation, and it gives you a you specific answer.
Yeah.
That's what I'm currently interested in, because it's good at that.
Absolutely.
It's good at giving context specific answers. And what isn't good about documentation nowadays, and Googling, I think, is in the same category, is you as the human still have to take your context in your head and then accumulate all the resources that are available, put them together, and make your answer.
Yeah.
With ChatGPT, it makes it so much simpler. You just have to understand the question you have.
Exactly.
Ask it that question, give it the context, and it'll assemble your answer and be pretty doggone close.
Yeah.
So then it's on you, because you've got this force multiplier. What would have taken maybe a whole day to figure out you've been given an answer in 5 seconds.
Exactly.
Right? Now take part of that day and test those answers.
Yeah.
Make sure it worked. So now instead of spending a day on a problem, you only spend 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's what I'm interested in. That's what I'm currently working on.
Gotcha. It's really interesting you said that. I was listening to audio clip earlier of how a gentleman uses AI and whatever. I can't remember the specific product he mentioned, but he said he has over 400 hours of YouTube information and between podcasts and just other videos, and they're all related to his actual company that he uses. So, or that he has. So the AI engine took all the videos and formed it, and I'm using this word very loosely, into a consciousness of him. Right. But it's just a data set based on the way that he's maybe answered questions before, answers to things, and his thoughts on matters. So let's say I joined the company as a social media manager, or I joined the company as something else. Instead of having to contact him to answer these things, when they ask the AI a question, it references his videos to give the answer back to the person, therefore allowing him to actually focus on, the stuff that his job actually entails, opposed to answering questions for other people. So if there's any word that I take from this episode specifically are the two: force multiplier, and it just being a way to grow productivity, your knowledge base, your ability to cheat, if that's what you choose. But you're only cheating yourself in that situation if that's all that you view this tool for. So this kind of continuing to find new ways to challenge yourself with this new technology.
You have to find new ways to challenge yourself. I highly recommend not falling into the trap of just getting this easy work done for you. You'll find yourself in a position where you know nothing about anything, and you will be expected to, because you've lied with AI.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. We kind of covered it a little bit on the last episode I was on, man. I know COVID done tricked a lot of people into thinking that you don't have to have face-to-face interaction with people, but eventually, and actually, I want to ask you a question, but the same way our math teachers used to tell us in school, you're not going to have a calculator for your entire life. Turns out you was wrong, Miss Laser. Take that. But to that point, you're not going to have ChatGPT everywhere you go. You're not going to have your AI assistants everywhere you go until you do, because that's if I'm going to believe that I have a calculator now, that'll happen in the future. But there will come a point in time where you have to stand on the knowledge that you've created. And are you using these tools to enlarge your knowledge base, or are you using these tools to be your knowledge base? To the next question that I ask you, and I asked my mother this, in 5 years, let's say they create a chip that they can implant in your brain, that's GPT and PAL right up in there. If you had to give me a percentage, I'm not going to ask you the question, would you put it in? Because I know you're not putting that chip inside your head. I know you think about it, but I know at the end of the day, you're going to be like, I'll create my own chip.
I don't know. My answer might surprise you. I don't know.
All right, then I'm going to go, hey, what's up? What you got?
I'd probably test it on my dog first.
Poor Rada.
Rada's going to become really intelligent.
First of all, she is already very intelligent.
Smart. Yeah. Hey, if I could install it in her, and then she could actually have like a voice module, and like you could translate her to speech, that'd be great. But no, I'm actually not totally against it. I'm not totally against it. I don't want version 1. Like, I'll
you
wait.
Want to be an early adopter?
I'll wait. No, I'm not going to be an early adopter. I'll wait until it breaks some people first, and then they fix it, right? Like I I wasn't gonna buy the new Tesla when Tesla just came out. You know.
But see, that's a great point, and I'll ask you, what percentage of people of the entire world do you think would be interested in technology like that?
I think a lot of people would be interested in it. I think in the beginning, right? A lot of this is again about timing.
Yeah.
Because you can have a great idea, it could be the wrong time, and people will completely reject it.
I say that all the time. If you're early and you're right, you're wrong.
Yeah, it's like a lot of it is timing. So I don't know. I think there will be a lot of early adopters, and if it works well and it has tremendous results, then a lot of people will adopt.
Yeah.
If it breaks people, then a lot of people will not adopt.
I just think people have done more for less.
Yeah.
People have injected their bodies with
How much
things.
does it cost? Let me ask you, how much does it cost in this fictional scenario of yours?
Well, if you're an early adopter, we gotta cover it, baby, because we don't know what's
free?
gonna happen to you.
It's
If
free?
you're an early adopter, we're gonna.
All right, how big was the test set in the beginning? Like there was a pre to early adopter.
100%.
There was like a alpha stage. How many people were they?
200 people.
What was the percentage of positive results?
85. He wants no part.
Bro, Pops is in the background. Look, he's like, He's like, I can guarantee you no boomer will ever have a chip in their head, I'll tell you what. Look, 85% is pretty good.
That's
Did they
what,
work
bro.
out some of the kinks? Because obviously they did, but when the next stage they got some type of approval to do something. I'm saying it's a strong maybe. They cover for free.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm saying it's
First
a strong
2000.
maybe.
First 2000 is completely free.
Like I'm leaning to yes. I'm leaning on the yes side. If you look, hey, I got some life insurance.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, and then we've seen all kinds of positive results. Mm-hmm. It's possible. It's possible. They're gonna have to really sell it.
Absolutely.
They're gonna have to really sell it.
But I just, I think about Limitless. Remember that movie with the pill?
Yeah,
that's a much easier sell because we expect drugs to leave our system at a point.
I heard someone say that was what? That was the Lifetime documentary of Adderall.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like,
Which, for all my ADD folks, I also am in there, and I don't think it's the same. I don't think it's the same. But I mean, you wish it was, right? A lot of people just need it to be normal.
yeah. See, that's like it's a very, speaking to people with ADHD who are on some type of stimulant like ADHD, and they're just like, my mind is so quiet. I'm like, what do you mean by that? I just don't hear, like, it's just, I can hear my thoughts. I'm like, so before, were you hearing yourself or were you hearing somebody else? I'm like, oh, no, God, no, like, I'm not whoa, like, I'm not super far up.
I'm way over there.
Way over there. It's me.
Like,
but it's just like constantly me. And like now it's just not constantly me.
Not as intrusive.
Exactly.
The thoughts aren't as intrusive. It gives you a little bit more domain over yourself, I guess.
But as a person who doesn't need a stimulant to do that thing, people think Adderall does for neurotypical brains is just like, wow, I can see the world. But what it's really like is like we almost gain ADHD. Like the best way I was able to have it explained to me is that having ADHD is like having like a like a paper towel holder. And like the paper cone that's inside, it's like looking at everything through that one cone. Yeah. And I can focus on the crap out of what's in that cone. But the second it moves out of my view, I don't even remember that I saw it. And Adderall is like the same exact thing because it's just like, I have to clean this table. And like, you're just like, you don't think about anything else. You feel like.
It's weird. I think that's why it's kind of made for people that, aren't neurotypical.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, the way my doctor said it to me, because I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I was diagnosed as an adult. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I've been fine. And I was deep into my work. Like, I was working like crazy, like nuts, voluntarily.
That was the H.
Yeah, it was. And that's what she was like. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I thought people that had ADD, like, couldn't focus at work and, like, couldn't do things they need to do. Like, I'm very productive. And she was like, yeah, you know how, folks with ADHD, they can play video games for like 6, 8, 12, 14 hours at a time. I was like, yeah. She was like, "That's work for you," and I was like, "Oh, well, that's fortunate.
If
That's actually quite helpful." I wonder, and after taking it, I think it helped me step back at certain points. Like I was more able to cognitively just say, "Okay, I've worked a long time now. Let me drink some water and maybe take a walk." Like versus before, I would just look down at my screen and then all of a sudden I look up and it's 4 a.m. You know, that's not
rough.
Productive.
It's like it is, but it isn't.
It's productive to my job. It got a lot done work wise.
Absolutely.
But it was counterproductive to my humanity.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, I was actually able to stop and say, okay, I said I'll go to the gym. Let me go ahead and do that. Let me try to just focus on other aspects of my health other than trying to be successful career wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important, man.
It affects everybody differently. I don't know. I think it's just we all have to figure out how to cope with our own weird minds.
That's all. That's all. That's what I'm getting that shit.
I figured out how to do it without meds for a long time. Debatably, I was fine. Like nothing terrible was happening. It's just I was working a lot, and then I would binge on work. Once I got into it, like, you know, I mean, you were there during that time.
I bet I was.
But what? So 12, 14-hour days on average. It's pretty heavy. Day would be, of course, the 16, 18s. Those aren't healthy.
No,
those aren't good. But the 12, 14 was average, and then I'd do that for weeks or months or whatever it is as the inspiration hit and the obsession kicked in, and then afterwards, you know, crash for a few days.
I was about to say, you felt the crash coming.
Yeah,
eventually.
but the crashes became less and less for me because the healthy things I did were just to make it so I could work more.
Yeah.
Like I would make sure I went for a walk, I did some reading, put my thing down, like my computer down,
Eat food.
hour before I went to bed. Yeah, eating is really important. So I would go out, do something, you know, that kind of stuff. I was socialized just enough so I could keep working and the other parts of my brain were satisfied. And I did those things so that when the crash happened, that was only usually for a weekend. Like maybe I'd crash for Saturday, Sunday, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. By Monday, I was
It's
good.
time to go. It's time to get back to it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I feel you on that. So, any closing?
What is it? Okay, got you. But yeah, no, I think
Any thoughts to wrap up, or where if you had to direct anybody towards getting back to AI, or when you where would you send somebody if they've heard this podcast, they're super interested, but they don't know exactly where to start? You know, I'll tell you, because this is the platform we're on. I always go to YouTube first, because when I go to YouTube, everything else just becomes much easier. But where would you send a person in that situation?
If you want to learn more about AI, I think learning about prompt engineering is good. I think learning overall just kind of how these large language models were even put together. You can Google all that stuff. Yeah, YouTube is great. Yeah, just OpenAI has a ton of tools, right? So if you really want to get specific and start working with the tools, of course that's where ChatGPT is. Under OpenAI, you can work with DALL-E, which is their image generation.
Oh, dope.
If you're into actually messing with that stuff programmatically as an engineer, definitely would go there and check those APIs out. Those are cool.
Yeah.
Overall, I think that's a good place to start. I have some stuff on my GitHub. My GitHub's DevHulk, so I'm doing some evaluation of like building these assistants and actually interacting with AI programmatically. So if you want to see that stuff, you can check it out there.
Word. Yeah. And I'll also throw in two that we're not affiliated with, but have been really big towards my understanding and learning. The first being Futurepedia. That I could look at it like, wait, you guys are doing what with this now? And just like,
I actually think I've ever looked at Futurepedia.
Oh, it's dope.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other one is the Warehouse, I believe. And the Warehouse has a lot of different, whether it's open source or they have free or freemium, some more, and they verify all the products that they display. So they make sure they either have a viable business case or that they have a large social following or a decent social following, so that people are just like, hey man, we do this thing, give us your money. And people
Yeah.
just like, cool. So they verify it beforehand. But yeah, those two sites, you'll find a lot of different things. And allow it to, opposed to being a specific thing that you're looking to go and solve, allow it to be something that opens your mind for that use case like we talked about. So like for my instance, I found a resume generator and that profile picture AI. I'm like, okay, well, I can merge those two and make a business. We had this great exodus or great it was great R something when everybody was quitting their jobs and leaving right after COVID. It was like,
Yeah, I remember. I forget what they called it.
Yeah.
The marketing term for it.
exactly. So like to that point, it's just like people need resumes updated. People are looking for new remote jobs and gigs and stuff. That's niche. So finding ways to couple and make that, I'm able to kind of gather a lot of those ideas off those two sites to kind of pin things together and then give them to people.
Awesome, man. Well, cool. Hey, hopefully y'all enjoyed it. If you did, leave the comment, subscribe, all
Like
that
and
stuff.
subscribe.
Helps a lot. I know Corey said he'd be the only one in the comments, but I do look at the comments too. So I'll also be looking at comments and interacting. But look, this is fun. This is a great time. We'd love to hear from you. Again, working to go live so that we can get that live interaction. Y'all have a good one.
Indeed.